Washte Mikolas. That means greetings, my friends in Lakota. This is Thunder Hands. My friends call me Thunder. Haven't done a video in a while, so I figured, well, I'm about due for one. I usually try to get inspired to do these things, and it's been a while since I've been inspired. But I got some inspiration because I was watching a documentary that I forgot about that I revisited called The West, and how everything came to be and how everything proceeded from the original landing of the Mayflower here and the Europeans, and even before that the Spanish conquistadors. But I'm entitling this series, or this show, America, or America's history of racism, genocide, and I might add profiling, but it's sobering when you revisit some of the things that happen, and then you understand more about what's happening right now. Gives you some insight as to what's happening right now in this country, and it makes you realize what's going on. Now, I don't use any notes, so I just speak off the top of my head, so I might go anywhere here, so just bear with me and try to follow me. But when the white settlers first came over here to America, and they created quote unquote America, a lot of things happened during that process, and some of the things are real eye-openers. But basically, you can see a definite pattern of racial profiling, or, racism, okay, genocide that accompanies that racism, and profiling as far as whether or not they're, the people that were here, the indigenous people or other people for that matter, fit in with the belief system of the Christian mentality that was prevalent back then, I guess still is. The first thing that I was called to my attention on this show that I was watching was the invasion of the white settlers into the sacred lands of the Lakota and the other tribes, all tribes actually, the people that were here first, let's put it that way. Now when they came in, the thing that really broke everything open was this gold rush. And I really wanted to open people's eyes about this because in 1849 we had the big gold rush, the big discovery in California at Sutter's Mill that there was gold. And I mean, people just went absolutely berserk. The white man, he went absolutely berserk. He figured that this was his chance to make $1 million and never have to worry again and take care of his family. And it was called gold fever at the time, and people were coming in not just from the East Coast and making their way through sacred lands, but from all over the world. I mean, people from China, people from Spain, people from Europe, people from Russia. I mean, everybody decided they were going to flock to Sutter's Mill in California. And I'm talking about tens of thousands of people. And it was all about greed, really, because when they got there, the first few people that got there, yeah, I mean, they might have made a gold strike and they might have made some money. And a few people did make money. Most of them squandered it, though. But it was nothing like they thought it was going to be. And big towns got built up. San Francisco got huge. It was just a little port with hardly anybody there. The West Coast started having this influx of people. And more importantly, the sacred lands, the Black Hills, where the Lakota and other tribes, the Cheyenne, lived, were overrun, literally overrun with the white settler like ants. And they were a dirty people compared to the people that were living. They went through in their wagon trains. They had cholera. They just, their cattle died. They just left them to the side of the road. People died. They buried them on the spot. They got lost. They left refuse all over the place. And they looked at the Indians as savages. And the Indians were just befuddled by this whole thing because they had signed peace treaties and they had talked to the white man, and they originally were open to coexisting. But it seems like, coexistence wasn't in the cards because of the white settler. And more specifically, I won't blame this so much on the white settler as I do on the government of the United States of America. And they started off, there was a civil war going on. They were fighting each other over slavery. And see, there's another thing. There's another racial component. The fact that there was slavery going on, and the fact that there was ownership of people by other people. And then another thing I want to mention, like I said, I was going to jump around, but getting back to the 1849 gold rush, a lot of Chinese people came over here, Orientals, and there were a lot of Mexicans or Spaniards here because basically they owned California. They owned 3/4 of this country. And they owned Texas, and they owned all kinds of states where that was their territory before America took it over and literally forced these people out. Now, at a point, there came a point when during this gold rush, it started playing out. There started being no more gold. People were here and they were fighting over claims, and they were fighting each other, and they were really disappointed because they didn't become millionaires, most of them. But the lowly Oriental, the way they looked at it anyway, would take these claims that nobody else would take, and they would mine the claims, and they would actually get gold because they were a type of people that were very conscientious, and they were very spiritual, just like the Native American, and they mined claims that other people didn't want, and they made money because they were conscientious and they were frugal, and they didn't go out blowing it in gambling halls and whoring about. They sent it home to their families. Well, the white settlers, the ones that weren't making money, didn't like this, so they pursued a course of genocide and torture and killing these Orientals, forcing them back to their country. They even got whatever law or legislature was in California at the time to declare these people non-entities, non-citizens, non-whatever. So they had no rights whatsoever. And they also did this to the Mexican people that were there. And so basically they started committing acts of murder. They murdered a lot of people. They raped women. They raped Oriental women. They raped Mexican women. And they murdered their husbands or their family. with no recourse by these people whatsoever because they were not considered really human. They took all their human dignities away. Yet when they built the railroad, they called these people back, these Orientals back, and had them over here by the hundreds of thousands because they are the only ones that could work hard and not get sick because they drank tea and had their own diets and their own religion, and they were conscientious people. Now, I'm a Native American Taoist, so I believe in both cultures. I believe in the Oriental culture and the indigenous people of this country, whom I think might have, came from, that whole, they're one people. Is what I'm trying to say. So you have this racial hatred towards the people of this land, the indigenous people, the Native Americans, the different tribe, the Lakota, the Apache, the Cheyenne, the Nez Perce. And then you have the hatred towards anybody that was different than them or believed differently. And a lot of this stuff boiled down to they're godless. They're savages. They're godless people. Now these same people that called the Orientals and the indigenous people, the natives of this land, these same people that were calling them godless and savages were in fact savages themselves because they did savage things. And they committed genocide on the Native American. I should say native because America came later. America is kind of a dirty word as far as I'm concerned because it represents everything that is wrong with this land now. And I'm just telling it like it is. I'm telling the true history here. And I already knew it, but when you watch something that's truthful and it just tears your heart out looking at some of this stuff, and then it makes you realize why we're in the situation we're in now. Because it's the same thing going on today. Profiling, whether it be Muslims or anybody that has a different belief system other than the Christian belief system. And let me tell you, they tried to force these belief systems from day one. The Orientals, force it on the Orientals, force it on the Native Americans. They took their children away, sent them to special Carlisle schools, cut their hair, washed their mouth out with lye soap, and even beat some of them to death. And I won't even talk about the Spaniards that came over here in the 1500s and burned people alive. But that was before, and I'm talking about why America is the way it is now. And it took a long time through the civil rights era and all of that stuff that people don't know our history here. And even during the civil rights era, right up until that time, they were lynching black people. And then after that time, there was, separate drinking fountains and bus seats and everything else. So all along, this is built on some kind of false pride, some kind of we think we're better than you are, our belief system's better than you are, yours is, you will believe our way. So that's what this country's history is. It's a history of genocide. And another thing they did too is they used technology in a wrong way. They took the technology like the railroad, which was built from shore to shore, which connected east to west. Instead of using it to integrate the white settler with the native and vice versa, they used it to divide. They used it to kill. They killed all the buffalo. They shot them from the trains. They sent out parties. And the buffalo were the people. Tatanka. You know, the buffalo to the tribal people were the people. They were their protectors. They did everything. They used every part of the buffalo for their sustenance. So what did they do? They slaughtered the buffalo and used the skins for fur coats, and they slaughtered the beavers, used them for hats. And it was all about money, 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 greed, greed, greed. I'm not going to go into the belief systems of the Christians, but basically their belief system is supposedly love thy fellow man, Ten Commandments, all that good shit. Excuse my French. None of that was displayed. They were actually a barbaric people. Now, I'm not saying that there weren't settlers and mountain men and different kinds of people that came out here and were good people. They were. I mean, they were looking for a new life. They were looking for just to have a good family life, and they went through some real hardships on the plains trying to grow wheat, and they had a tough time. But you know what? They would have had a lot easier time if they would have teamed up with the indigenous people and became friends with them, instead of treating them like dirt, scum, non-believers. What kind of a God would condone that division, that genocide? And make no mistake about it, there was genocide, brutality. I mean, there was the things like the Sand Creek Massacre. And I've been over this before, where Colonel Shivington went in and massacred men, women, children, babies on Sand Creek right after Black Kettle, the chief of the Cheyenne, was open to peace, was even flying an American flag. They told him to fly an American flag and he wouldn't be harmed. And so this Colonel Shivington, who was an ex-Civil War egotist, jerk, went in and massacred men, women, children, babies, and then if that wasn't bad enough, he mutilated them, cut out their private parts, put them on display, used them for tobacco pouches, and wore them around their neck, paraded through the streets to the applause of the people of Colorado. You know, I want to, in case you think, you know, that I'm just basically anti-religious, I mean, you want to talk about persecution? Let's talk about the Mormons for a minute. Now, I have no soft spot in my heart for any religion, but the Mormons were persecuted probably almost as bad as the Indian because of their belief systems again. They weren't in line with the Christian thought of one wife. They believed in polygamy, and they were driven out and burned and hanged and, you know, massacred in large numbers by other so-called whites that are righteous people. So it was whites fighting whites, you know. They couldn't even tolerate their own kind if they didn't conform to a certain belief system. And don't we find that today? Isn't that what we find today? We find all these components that I'm talking about here. We find greed. The lust for gold is really now a lust for oil, which is the black gold. Resources. trying to get rich. And people are still talking about gold. Buy gold, buy gold. Store it up, because when the shit hits the fan, well, that's all you're going to have. You're not going to have that, brother. You're not going to have it. What are you going to do? Eat your gold? If you got gold and the monetary system collapses and there is no dollar and there is no food on the shelves, what are you going to do? Eat the gold you stacked up? Oh, I'm going to go out and trade it. I'm going to shave off little pieces of it and trade it with, oh yeah? Really? So when somebody else who's greedy, who is hurting, finds out you got gold bars stacked up in your house, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to come looking for you. And if you don't think that's true, just take a recent case of what happened on Black Friday, or whatever they call it, after Thanksgiving, the day that everybody goes shopping for Christmas. Supposed to have all this love in their heart. They had riots at some Walmart stores where people were fighting over $89 plasma flat screen TVs. Literally beating each other up for a TV. Okay? So you don't think that when there's no food on the shelves and there's no way to get any kind of clothing or manufactured items, that they're not going to go absolutely friggin' berserk? Hello? Wake up. So in order to understand this country and the fact that we're still, we're nuking people and sending missiles over and hellfires on drones over to these tribal nations that aren't even in our country. And we're also doing things like, we're still profiling people on this patriarchal belief system. Patriarchal. Let me emphasize that everything that comes from the Bible is a patriarchal system, men oriented. Now the tribal people were matriarchal, women oriented. And you know what? I really honor grandmother and Mother Earth and the feminine principle of the universe. Compassion, love, receptiveness. That's what the feminine principle represents. And until you know that, the Taoist literature says, until you cleave to the feminine, you won't get anywhere. Now some people say, oh, the indigenous people weren't that great. They fought amongst themselves, and true, they did. But this was their land. They were here first. If they wanted to fight for each other's land and ponies or territories or whatever, that's their business. And I'll say one thing for the indigenous people: they are true warriors. There's no doubt about it, but in an honorable way, not a dishonorable way. There is dishonorable and honorable warriorship, okay? And whatever they did before the white man got here was their business. They didn't commit acts of genocide. They didn't commit acts of non-compassion to the extreme that the white man did when he came in here with his Christian religion. And people are going to think, oh, he's pagan, he hates God, he doesn't like... No, that's not true at all. My religion is, my church is the forest, my church is nature. I don't need 4 walls and a steeple. And when I read religious books, I take the meaning that was meant by the people that they made the religion after, like Buddha and Yeshua. But you can't take an interpretation of a book, create a religion, a dogmatic religion, and force it down people's throats, and then not obey any of the precepts or any of the laws or any of the rules that you're saying that the other people should obey. Hypocritical to the maximum degree. I mean, killing people, genocide, killing off their food source, the buffalo, greed over gold, greed over resources, destroying Mother Earth to get to those resources, and that's what we see today. And people just go on in their everyday routine thinking that this is all hunky-dory, this is all okay. I think it's really time for people to wake up, because I'm sick of people being stupid, okay? And I'll just say it outright. People are stupid when they fight over, $89 plasma screen TVs, and all they think about is their own damn materialistic possessions. And to hell with what's going on in the planet or what's going on with our government. And let me just get right down to the nitty-gritty here and say that our government has piss-poor leaders. They're not leaders. A leader's like a chief. And the chiefs of the tribes, they put the people first. And if they didn't, they were out in a heartbeat. And they fought for the people, their people. And they didn't lie to their people. They didn't speak with a forked tongue to their own people. So who are the liars? Who are the people that are breaking every rule in the book? Every Christian rule, every rule, and let's not even say Christian, let's just say moral imperatives. Let's just throw the Bible and religion and everything out. Let's just come from like a sense of morality, a sense of compassion, a sense of love. That stuff went right out the window. Has never been in the window. So this country, this America, and its constitution and everything else is based on manifest destiny. And manifest destiny, it's our destiny to control, it's our destiny to populate, it's our destiny to propagate, it's our destiny. Problem is, there's too damn many people in this land now, and in the world. There's just too many people. And these people have no regard for the planet, their home. They dirty their own home with their garbage. Just like Sitting Bull said. That's the first thing he noticed. And Sitting Bull was a great leader, as was Crazy Horse. And these were real leaders. People that fought to the bitter end to protect their people. And even after Crazy Horse was interned in a reservation and he got a chance to go out on a Wild West show, he saw people roaming the street that were homeless back then. You know what? He gave all his money to them. Every bit that he made. Most of the money that he made, he gave to the people that he said, why are there people walking around with no home and no food? Why do you people allow this? So he saw way back then. I'm telling you, karma, or whatever you want to call it, payback or whatever, is coming down the road, I hope, to these people that think nothing of the land, nothing of the people. All they think about is what they can possess. How can they make out on the money thing? How can they grind their heel into the face of their fellow man? It's really getting old. And you know, I pray to Great Spirit. I pray especially to the feminine principle, the goddess energy, grandmother, and grandfather. I've been kind of turned off to the male principle of the concept of a male principle of God because of the Christian thing. He this, he that, he. Yeah, he as in laugh. It's laughable. We need some compassion. We need some love. Now, I have no answers as to why Great Spirit or the force of the universe or the intelligence of the universe has even allowed such things. But I'll tell you one thing, if I was quote unquote God or the creative intelligent force, I wouldn't let people suffer like this. But it's beyond my wisdom to see what that's all about. The best thing that I can come up with is that it could be, you know, some type of illusion or some type of thing we have to go through. And for what reason, I don't know. But I do know one thing, I am an enlightened person and I see things that other people don't see. Being a medicine man, well, you can call me a medicine man or you can call me a wisdom keeper or you can call me just a person that can see things. A shaman, whatever you want to call me. But I see things, and when you see the whole picture, when you see the whole thing, you realize that it's all just striving after nothing. There really is nothing here that is worth striving after, except nature being pristine and keeping our home in order. But to possess something or to possess another person or to cause another person to bend to your will or to have power, what does it all mean? Nothing. Even Solomon in the Bible said it's a striving after the wind. We don't know if he was even real, but you know, sometimes I just have to speak from the heart because it builds up, and this is what I feel is going on in America today, because everybody's wondering, you know, everybody's talking about, and you can best be sure that most of this stuff has some kind of political, all this stuff you hear about, oh, this is going to happen and that's going to happen, and if anything happens, it's going to be from natural sources rebelling against what's being done to. It's like any organism. But man has a propensity for destroying himself. Just look at history. Look at the fall of any empire, the fall of any civilization. It's man has a propensity for war, for destroying himself. By what? Depletion of resources. War with others. Those are the two big ones. And maybe, you know, maybe this video will fall on deaf ears, but the first thing we need to do is get rid of the root cause of what all this is built on, and it's hate and lack of tolerance for other people's belief systems or skin color or how they believe. Don't be self-righteous. Don't be prideful. Don't think your way's the only way. Open up your heart to other people's belief systems, other people's way of thinking. Have compassion. Don't rule by the rule of law, rule by the spirit of man, the spirit of the universe, nature. You know, I wrote a book called Emergence that talks about a man and his twin soul, and they lived together back in a certain time, and you know, they were not husband and wife, but you know, soulmates, and they felt no reason to get married. This is in my book Emergence. And so the man went forward, they both went forward, traveled into time from back in the 50s. They were Native Americans. They had a purpose. They were wisdom keepers, but they had special powers. They were of the ancient of ancients, and the man traveled forward with the woman and had dreams of the future, which is now, that what's happening right now, and couldn't take it. Came back and said, we better start changing things right now because we don't have a lot of time. And this was like in the 50s this novel took place. Basically, it was kind of like about my life, but with some embellishments or some additional knowledge. But I'm telling you right now, this is a nightmare. And if you don't think so, just look around you and be ready for anything. That's all I gotta say. Because these people will in control, these leaders, and like I said, they're not leaders. They're self-centered, egotistical dictators. Okay? They dictate, and it trickles on down through the whole society. Dictation of others as to what you're going to do. You can't be a free spirit. You can be a free spirit, but inwardly, by not giving your power to this. But that's the only way that I can see. And maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's what I should end on. It's be a free spirit. Be your own higher self, higher entity. Be your own god, goddess. By connecting to that universal source and not thinking that you have to live by man-made rules and belief systems. Be free of mind, Mu Shin, mind like water. That's what it is. And in the Taoist, talk about Mu Shin, mind like water. Flow, like the natural flow of the universe. And I think if there's any way out of this, it's going to be what the Hopi people said. By tuning into certain energy centers like your heart center and your spirit, because they went through several worlds, destruction of worlds according to their belief systems and their prophetic system. And I have done I might mention this now since I'm getting ready to sign off here, but I have a video called The Hopi, the prophecies, the people, the ceremonies, anything you'd ever want to know about them. And I don't know, at some point I might offer it free down the road, but right now it's on a donation basis, because donations show appreciation, and I worked hours on this thing. So anybody that's interested can go to my website, which is down below, nativeamericandaoist.com. I'll put a link to it to where you can go and donate, and you can see a documentary an hour long with pictures and just like you'd see on TV that I produced about the Hopi people and what they prophesied. And believe me, you're going to want to know what they prophesied, and you're going to want to know the new take on it, because it's happening right now. And I figure, I do a lot of things for free like this show, and I give a lot of information out, but I figure, if people really want to show appreciation for what I do or for good things, they'll go out and spend $7.50 on a latte at Starbucks and think nothing of it, or they'll go out and blow 20, 30 bucks in a day on nothing. $15 donation is what I'm asking for you to view this video. Not this one I'm making, but the Hopi video. So if you're interested in that type of thing, and prophecy, and why their ceremonies led to certain things, and why certain things are happening today, check it out. That's all I got to say. And if you just want to give a donation, you can do that at my site also. But for a $15 donation, you get to view this video as many times as you want for as long as you want. You'll be given a special key, and you can it'll be emailed to you, and you'll be able to watch that video, which is an unlisted video on YouTube. So you might want to think about that. So I think I'll just end it there today. Keep this about 45 minutes. Think about some of the things I said and why we're in this. Not much has changed. Not much has changed. We're basically, only it's getting worse. I shouldn't say not much has changed. I should say the causes of all the problems that we're facing are intolerance of other people's belief systems, and an intolerance of other people's race, and intolerance of other people's being a free spirit. Hey, I don't have to believe anything if I don't want to. Or I can believe what I want, and Christians can believe what they want, but don't kill other people. Don't force it down other people's throats. If you want to be deluded into dogma, or if that makes you feel good, fine. There's a saying, a tribal saying, I trouble no man about his religion, let him not trouble me about mine. But that's all they do. And they did it to the Mormons and the Orientals, and now they're doing it to the Muslims, and it's not stopped. It's gotten worse. And it's gotten so bad now that the people of this country are being turned on by their own leaders. And they may be even labeled terrorists, or they may not, a lot of people may not fit in with the new agenda by these so-called quote-unquote leaders. You might find yourself on the wrong side of the fence because you said or did something that the government doesn't agree with, or somebody that is running the puppet shills of this government. So, it's gone beyond racial now. It's gone to, well, you don't believe like I do, or you're not with the program, or you're too old, or that's another thing too. It's not just racial, it has to do with age and everything. It's a mess. So people can just be comfortably numb and just turn their heads to it, live their life and die. Or they can just be like me and try to inform others about what could make life a little bit better for us all. So anyway, that's it. Talked too much already. Just want to say blessings to you all, and I love my fellow man and woman. And I'm out of here. This is Thunder, over and out.